Balatro fever has been sweeping the world in 2024, winning Indie Game of the Year at the Golden Joystick Awards and being even nominated for Game of the Year at the Game Awards. I'm recording this before the award show actually takes place, so it might even win, who knows? This is a video about doing everything there is to do in Balatro as far as Steam achievements, which will include finishing up all of the blinds, the challenges, and getting all of the stickers on all of the Jokers. But I'm going to start with a brief explanation of how the game actually works for people that don't know what Balatro is, so if you're interested in getting into the actual game or more advanced stuff, you can go ahead and skip about 3 minutes into the video. If you haven't seen Balatro before and you're watching this video, honestly, I've got to recommend you run as fast and as far as you possibly can, because this game is so addictive, you are going to lose so many hours. It's even out on mobile now, it's just crazy stuff. But for those of you souls who are brave enough to stick around, I can tell you that Balatro is a roguelike game based around various poker hands, and some not so poker hands depending on how deep into the game you may get. You might be thinking to yourself, that doesn't sound all that interesting. You know, everybody's played a card game at some point in their life, and you know, they're all kind of the same, right? And to that I say you clearly have not experienced the epic highs and lows of ripping a polychrome blueprint and absolutely going to the moon. Not to be confused with the Joker to the moon, that one's pretty good too, but you know, not super great. Sorry. Anyway, this game is all about playing these poker hands from a standard 52 card deck, though as you go on it will get less and less standard as you add more cards to it. The way that you increase your score is by collecting various Jokers. You start out with 0 out of 5 in any given run, and you will go to different shops where you can purchase new Jokers to add to the squad. There are a total of 150 different Jokers in the game, and you will unlock them slowly as you continue to progress deeper and deeper into the madness that is this game. The way that this game actually works is based on the ante number at the bottom left there. You go through a total of 8 antes through the regular game, though after that you can go into an endless mode. Within each of those antes, there are 3 battles that you have to do: the small blind, the big blind, and the boss blind, and in between each of those you will get access to a shop. You also have access to skip the small and the big blind for certain rewards, but that's a little bit advanced. We'll get more into that a bit later. The boss blinds are a little bit more challenging than the other two because they generally have a higher score that you need to reach to finish them, and also they normally have some sort of handicap that you're going to be forced to face with during the boss fight. Sometimes those won't be too bad, and sometimes they will absolutely ruin a run that was about to take off. But that's kind of just part of the game. So now you're probably wondering, how do you actually get the points that you need to finish the small, big, and boss blinds? And that is a combination of 2 things: your chips and your mult. You take your chips times your mult for any given hand, and then you total those up to get your score for that hand. And then you need to combine all of your hands together, or just as many hands as it takes, to get over the score to finish that roundup. It really sounds more complicated than it is. You're just taking one thing times another trying to get over the score. As you go further and further into the antes, the score that you're going to need to get goes higher and higher, and in order to increase your score to be able to match the score that the game wants you to get, you're going to need to increase your chips and your mult. So that's where those Jokers that I mentioned before came in, but you can also raise them in other ways, such as picking up tarot cards, which improve your deck generally, and taking planet cards that can improve the quality of the hands that you're playing, something like a pair or a flush or 5 of a kind, things like that. Everything that you were seeing in this video up to this point was all part of the tutorial that this game starts with to onboard you. Now, in my case, I had actually seen quite a bit of this game before it actually fully released, so I was pretty familiar coming in. So my first run ended up being a pretty good one because I had all of that foresight, immediately earning our first achievement for getting to Ante 4. I'm not entirely sure if the first run of this game is seeded. Obviously this is a run-based game, and as you go you really won't be playing the same seeds as other people unless you purposefully put that in, but the first run for me started out pretty luckily with the powerful Ride the Bus Joker, where you get +1 mult for every hand you play not containing a face card. We earned the achievement 10k for scoring 10,000 chips in a single hand. I had watched probably 20 to 30 hours of Balatro before it became a full game, and you know, maybe I was a little bit smug coming in. This is a game about managing your resources and paying a lot of attention. So it's a little bit embarrassing that even though I was doing pretty well in this first run, it took me a kind of embarrassing amount of time to realize that I had an open Joker slot because of that negative Joker that I have there. And just for future reference, the negative joker is that black one there with the flipped color palette that does not take up a joker slot. It's always funny to go back to early footage of you playing a game after you've gone on to play hundreds and hundreds of hours of it, because looking at this first run here, we managed to earn the achievement Ante-Upper for reaching Ante 8 in our first run, but look at this, we're running Gym Joker with only one uncommon joker. I guess it's a free 1.5 times molt, but still kinda weird stuff. I could have done better. We also managed to lock down the achievement Retrograde for getting any poker hand to level 10. The primary way of doing this is by picking up these planet cards here. Our main focus for this first run, in addition to not playing any face cards, was focusing on only playing 3 of a kind and trying to build our molt that way. Even though this first run was a little sloppily put together, and we get the very dangerous Crimson Heart boss blind with one random joker being disabled on every hand, we actually managed to win our very first run of this game, earning the achievement Heads Up. It isn't really our first game because we watched so much of it coming into this game, but I gotta admit it does feel good. Once you win a run, you get the option to go into Endless mode. This deck wouldn't do great there though. Another great feeling you get early on in this game is after you finish a run, win or lose, you will get all of the unlocks that you earned while playing that previous run. It is another really great feeling to see all of these things that were previously locked being unlocked for you to use in future runs. This includes new jokers as well as decks that you can take a look at. And we're going to need to get very familiar with all of the jokers and all of the decks. I was feeling pretty on top of the world after that first run. We won with honestly not that much difficulty, and we got 5 achievements in our very first game. How long could this possibly take? And just as I'm having that thought, I get slapped by the cruel mistress of fate as it laughs in our face and we lose a couple games in a row. Now feels like a good time to mention that there are a total of 15 decks in Balatro, each of them with different abilities. There are also 8 different difficulties ranging from white stake to gold stake that we're going to need to play through. Each one of those is harder than the last as they continue to add challenge after challenge that you need to get through. You unlock new decks by completing new difficulties, so my plan was to go through each deck on white difficulty, then move up to the next, and then repeat as we move all the way up through it. We continue messing around, playing through the game with different decks, trying things out, seeing what we like, when we earn another achievement Royale for playing a Royal Flush, that is ace through 10 in all the same suit. Though if I was going to do this again, I would advise you to actually discard the first Royal Flush you get because Brainstorm Joker is a heck of a thing. This clip in particular holds a little bit of a cruel irony that won't become apparent until very later on in this video. The Mime Joker sits in the shop smugly looking on as we earn the achievement Cartomancy for discovering every tarot card. The final tarot card that we needed in this instance was Justice, which creates a glass card. I was really underrating glass cards early in my journey. Our next game was going pretty well, but this is just an example of how quickly things can begin to turn on you. We got a very unfortunate boss challenge where all face cards are debuffed, and we are running a build with the Joker on the right called Paradola, where all cards are treated as face cards. Now you can see what the boss's ability is before you actually challenge it. You've got 2 shops to try to warp your build, but in this case our whole thing was based around playing face cards, so we kind of just decided to go down with the ship. And sometimes stuff like this just happens in this game. It's a difficult game, and sometimes there's just nothing you can do to win. This playthrough isn't all bad though. We do manage to earn the achievement Card Player for playing a total of 2,500 cards, so that's something. We've been getting a little bit more experience under our belt, and we're definitely starting to see some real improvement in the game. Just looking at our Joker lineup here, we are actually starting to learn from our prior mistakes. We've got Hack to take advantage of re-triggering some of the low cards in our deck. We've got Blueprint to copy the ability to get more molt for each of those cards that's re-triggered. And we've got a Baseball Player that even has some uncommon jokers to molt with. The order that we have our jokers in and the actual makeup of our deck leaves quite a bit to be desired from a standpoint of me playing the game now, but honestly, this early into the game, we're showing some promise, kid. You might really have it. Once we get to the end screen of this game, we do learn that this has in fact been by far our best game so far with a new high score. And to top it all off, we earn the achievement Card Discarder for discarding a total of 2,500 cards. Makes sense since we just got the Card Player one right before that. That run didn't stay our best run for very long though, as we quickly learned the new Balatro player's best friend, the Flush. Playing flushes seems to be what a lot of new Balatro players really focus on. It's a pretty easy hand to look for, and there are a lot of jokers that specifically synergize with it, so it's pretty easy to look for. I was not able to resist the flushes charms, and I was lured over to the dark side, but we do earn the achievement 1000k for scoring 1000 chips in a single hand. That is a pretty big improvement. Like I mentioned before, I'm using a pretty straightforward strategy of completing every deck that we possibly can on the lowest difficulty that we have unlocked, and then moving up as we complete all of them to move everything forward one at a time difficulty-wise. I would say the decks that most wildly change the actual way that you play the game come in at the end as you complete the much higher difficulties. For the first couple, it is a pretty straightforward process of moving through them. And up to this point, we've actually managed to get everything that we have unlocked all the way up through the White Stake difficulty. Not to be confused with the banned White Snake difficulty. I don't know what that means. I don't know. It's in the notes. I don't know. I'm just a man, and I once again fall victim to the wiles of the flush deck opportunity, and we managed to complete our first red stake run, earning the achievement Low Stakes and unlocking another deck for us to play through. Balatro is a special game in a lot of ways, and one way that it's a little bit special is because I actually played it a bit differently than I play a lot of the other games on this channel. Normally when I start playing a game, I don't look at the achievements before starting it so that I'm not like tempted to go out of our way and play the game differently than we normally would. But in this case, I knew Balatro was going to be a super big grind, so I definitely looked at the achievements before we started, and I was kind of passively looking for knocking out some of the easier achievements that we could get on the way. In this case, we earn the achievement You Get What You Get for winning a run without ever re-rolling the shop. We're getting a little bit experienced at this point, so it wasn't that difficult to just play with what we get. Our next big milestone of the game is actually kind of a special one. It's one of the only times in this game where we unlock multiple achievements at once, and it's also one of the few handful of runs that we played live on stream. The two achievements that we unlocked are Clairvoyance for discovering every Spectral card, and Legendary for discovering a Legendary Joker, which means that the Legendary Spectral card was the very last one that we needed. I believe percentage achievement-wise, I was pretty far beyond the odds of actually unlocking the Legendary Joker at this point. Based on Steam percentages, about 62% of players have discovered a Legendary Joker, while only about 31% of players have discovered every Spectral card. Now, part of that will be people purposefully skipping certain Spectral cards because they don't like them or they can't find a use for them, but in my case, it was just kind of bad luck. I mean, good luck that we got it eventually, but, you know, bad luck odds-wise. And it's kind of a shame that it took us so long to get them because the Legendary Jokers are all super cool. They have extremely powerful abilities, and if you see the Legendary Joker pop up, you've got to buy it. It's just one of those rules. We managed to get another pretty good run online here, although past me's card ordering is once again getting me a little bit frustrated. We did manage to get the deck to be like pretty much all sixes though, which is pretty cool as far as putting together a pretty good 4 of a kind build. And another one of those achievements that we were just kind of passively looking for is Shattered for breaking 2 glass cards in a single hand. We earn it here. We weren't super looking for it, but you know, it's nice to pick up while you can get it. We also earn the achievement Astronomy for discovering every planet card. The final one that we were missing is for playing 5 of a kind, so it makes sense that it took us a little bit of time to actually get that one unlocked. Another achievement that we were kind of passively looking for, and if it came up, was ROI, buying 5 vouchers by the end of Ante 4. So vouchers are things that spawn in the shop. Normally you get 1 per ante, and obviously that's going to be a problem because we need to collect 5 before the end of Ante 4. Obviously. So this requires a little bit of some fancy footwork. There is actually a voucher that allows you to set yourself back 1 ante that could help out, or there is actually a reward sometimes for skipping a blind will give you a new voucher in the next shop, but you still need to have the money to purchase it. At this point in my Balatro experience, I had gotten quite familiar with a lot of the regular game in the early antes, and one night I decided to take a little bit of a break from playing the regular game and step into the arena that is the challenge runs. Now, challenge runs are kind of weirdly hidden in this game, honestly. Like, my girlfriend has played like 150 hours of this game and didn't even know that they were in here until I told her about them. But challenge runs can be pretty cool. Starting out, they're pretty simple things, like you can't earn money, but you start with a bunch of the egg joker in your hand. But eventually they will get to be a little bit more challenging, and we'll get to that later in the video. But we do earn the achievement Rule Bender for finishing up the first challenge run here. Another one of those achievements that we were kind of looking for but not really is Flushed, for playing a flush with 5 wild cards. This is actually the 5th rarest achievement in the game. I guess it's kind of a weird thing that you wouldn't normally do while playing the game if you aren't looking for it though. The eagle-eyed among you might have noticed that the Flushed achievement didn't actually unlock in that last clip though. That is because I accidentally played a flush 5 of the same cards that were all wild cards, and that doesn't quite work. They need to be all different, and it needs to be an actual flush hand type. So, you know, if you're looking for this one, don't be a fool like me. As our skill continues to grow in Balatro, the difficulty of the game continues to grow as well. We are all the way up to the black stakes now, or maybe I should say black snakes. That's not it. That can't possibly be it. Let's go back to White Snake. Looking back at these old runs now, I'm definitely starting to see that we have more of a focus on building mult. In fact, all of our jokers seem to be built on building mult, and we are not paying attention to chips at all. This is another habit that I'm going to need to break for myself later in the game, as I'm going to start falling off in later difficulties if you don't focus on both. But at least for right now, we managed to earn the achievement mid-stakes for winning a run on the black stake difficulty. After finishing up the black stake for the first time, we unlock using the anaglyph deck, which is probably honestly the most powerful deck in the game. After defeating each boss blind, you gain a double tag, which gives you another use of a reward you get for skipping a blind in the game. It doesn't seem that crazy, but I can assure you it is very good. And seeing as we've had to go back down to white stake, it allows us to mess around with playing some of these absolutely stupid strategies like this one right here, where we are focused on duplicating aces as much as possible and powering up our cards by discarding them with burnt joker and then molting out with the ×2 and ×3 jokers respectively. And we earn the achievement big hands for having a deck size of over 80, of course. And you know what, it turns out that I was actually wrong. I called this run super stupid, but it turns out that this is actually an extremely powerful way to play the game. We end up finding the hologram joker, which gains molting ability by the number of cards that you add to your deck. So while we have our blueprint joker and our DNA joker that allows us to add up to 2 copies of a deck per round of the game that we play, and we even happen to find the mime, which allows us to increase our ability to score even higher as we can begin duplicating our steel jokers in hand, things get a little bit out of control. I definitely should have abandoned the burnt joker and gone with something that increased our chips or mult even more, but I just get really attached to it. But even that bad choice can't stop us, as we earn the achievement 100,000K for scoring over 100 million chips in a single hand. That's not in a single round, that is one hand that this deck could produce. It is crazy stuff. I obviously continued to play this amazing game out, and when it finally crashed out, we had a best hand score of 486 million in a single hand played. Looking at it in retrospect, we definitely could have pushed this much higher had we made some different decisions, but honestly that is a pretty crazy score, and it's one of the highest ones that I got while playing the game. I had a major focus on just the achievements in this game, and I wasn't really looking for playing the endless mode and pushing farther beyond and getting super high scores. Though maybe when the DLC comes out next year, we could get an achievement that's based on going super deep into the game, getting some of those E scores, and maybe I'll start looking into that. That would be super fun. We continue grinding the anaglyph deck back up to being on par with the other decks, and honestly, it continues to impress as we earn the achievement nest egg for having a total of $400 or more in a single run here as well. Honestly, at the time, I didn't pick up on how hard this deck was carrying, but it was pretty amazing in retrospect. Another achievement that you probably could get on accident, but I definitely didn't, I was very much actively looking for getting this completed, is Speedrunner. In addition to the 8 antes that there are in the game, there are also the round system, which is based on the number of individual games that you have played. So in a standard ante, you would go up 3 rounds. But for this achievement, we need to finish a full run in 12 or fewer rounds. We did it all the way up on black stake difficulty, which is the highest that we were at the time, and we just happened to get super lucky with the jokers that we pulled and our anti-skips. All of that combined, and we had a super great speedrunner run. The next achievement that we earn, and the 6th rarest in the game, is Extreme Couponer for discovering every voucher in the game. The final one that we had left was actually not even unlocked for us until we earned the achievement for scoring 100 million points in a single hand, so we haven't had a whole lot of opportunities to pick it up before now. But we've got it, so we never really need to worry about it again. I mentioned before that as you get higher and higher into the number of decks that you have unlocked, you start to get a couple of really crazy ones in there. One of, and honestly probably the craziest of these, is the Plasma deck, where you actually score your chips in a much different way. Instead of collecting both chips and mult and then multiplying them together to get your total, you actually sum your chips and mult and then split the total in half and multiply those together, which most of the time will result in a much larger number, and therefore you will have a much larger score at the end of each round. Like I said, I am a completionist, not really a super high score leaderboard type of person, and so this is actually where we unlocked our highest chip total in the game at just over 800 million. That run in particular is also pretty special because we have now seen and unlocked every single Joker in the game. Now that doesn't mean that we have won with every single Joker, and we are very far away from being done, but it is good progress to another achievement. Also, just a quick check-in on our deck progress throughout the game. We haven't really focused on this at all, but we have managed to get every deck that we have unlocked all the way up to the penultimate Orange Stake difficulty. A little bit of Balatro lore for you: the Orange Stake difficulty modifier was originally booster packs costing $1 more per ante instead of the 30% chance for perishable Joker like it is now, and as you can see on the screen. We're also still missing one deck unlock that we will get for beating the next difficulty. So now that we've shown off our grind to get all of the decks back up to Orange Stake difficulty, we can finally show off beating Orange Stake difficulty for the first time. And beating Orange Stake for the first time will actually unlock the final deck that we were looking at earlier. This deck is super cool, and we'll get into what it's all about in a little bit, but the important thing to know now is that we have unlocked the achievement Completionist, the 4th rarest achievement in this game for discovering 100% of our collection, which includes Jokers, consumables, decks, all that sort of stuff. Kind of a slap in the face though, because we are many hours away from actually 100%ing this game. We make another important step towards completing our 100% goal though, as we earn the achievement Tiny Hands for getting our deck's total size down to 20 or fewer. The way that we achieve this is actually pretty simple. We get a run with the legendary Joker Perkeo, and we use his ability to duplicate a held tarot card in between each of our rounds, and we slowly thin our deck down to just be 10s, queens, and stone cards. And without working too hard, we earn the achievement. Pretty quickly after we just went over the last one, it's time for another check-in on all of our progress between all of our different runs. We have managed to get all of our decks up to Gold Stake difficulty. We have yet to quite pierce the veil on getting Gold Stake finished up, but we are well on our way as we have everything pretty much there. We just need to get the final effort in. We're also sitting at around 74% total progress, with us mainly being held up by the challenges we have remaining and the Joker stickers, which are going to ultimately be our, not downfall, but you know, it's gonna stall us out for quite a long time. It's definitely the biggest headache there is in this game. We swing back around to the red deck as we manage to get our first Gold Stake victory. We build a pretty competent high card deck here, where we have the Stuntman giving us chips, as well as a holographic reroll Joker. We've got the green Joker giving us our mult, and 2 multers. This is pretty much a straight over the plate. This is a really good formula for constructing a winning deck, and the proof is in the pudding as we earn the achievement High Stakes, even with all of our cards being debuffed. We jump forward another couple hours of gameplay. Really, it's quite a few hours of gameplay, but you know, here we are regardless. And we see that we are once again on Gold Stake, and we have built another pretty good deck, though this time we have given up on the chips and decided to replace that with just a bunch more mult, and it's actually working out for us as we do manage to complete the Gold Stake here. However, you might notice that I seem a little bit confused on the end screen there. I hesitate for a second because I was kind of expecting something to happen and it didn't. I decide to hop back into the level and play out another hand, and maybe what I was looking for will happen this time and it was just a fluke or something? I don't know, it's really weird, but even beating this next level, we still don't have the achievement I wanted. I go ahead and finish out the run. This was a pretty good run after all, but I was still hoping that once we lost, the achievement would pop, but it still has not. I go ahead and click through my stats and can see that I am in fact at 100% deck stake wins. We have managed to beat every single deck on Gold Stake at this point, and I was pretty excited about getting the Completionist Plus achievement out of this. I also returned to the new run screen and click through the decks, also once again confirming that I have beat the game on all Gold Stake. But the achievement still isn't here, so what do we do? Well, after a little bit of Googling, and it was actually kind of hard to find the answer to what I was looking for here because so few people had actually beaten the deck on Gold Stake, but eventually I managed to figure out that what we need to do is win another run on any deck, any difficulty, so we go ahead and go back to the checkered deck on the lowest difficulty. The thing about going back to low difficulty after you've played so much Gold Stake, though, is that it's basically a walk in the park, and nothing can really stop us. We don't have to try all that hard to get a great flush build going, and once we complete the run, we earn the achievement Completionist Plus, which was only achieved by 0.2% of players at the time that I got it, which is pretty sick. It's still a pretty rare achievement, so I'm pretty proud of this one. So that turns us to our next task, which I've alluded to a couple of times throughout this video. We need to collect all of the different stickers on the different Jokers. In the collection screen, you can look through your Jokers, and each of them will have a sticker on it that reflects the color of the highest difficulty level you have finished a run with while holding that Joker. So we need to get every single one of these Jokers up to a Gold Stake sticker. Luckily, they are backwards compatible, so we just need to win on Gold Stake, but that is a tall ask and a lot of hours. As far as method to collecting as many gold stickers as possible, there are quite a few different ones, and a lot of people I've seen online argue over what the best deck to achieve this goal with is. Personally, my first idea was to go with the erratic deck, a deck that takes all ranks and suits in the deck and randomizes them, so you can get super easy early combos like 5-of-a-kind 8s or whatever, and then you can build directly into that. A lot of my early Jokers were collected using that method, but eventually the re-rolling, looking for good decks over and over again kind of started to wear on me a little bit, and that actually led to me taking a couple month break from Balatro, which kind of delayed this video a little bit. Sorry about that. I've also seen arguments that yellow deck is the best because you start with 10 additional dollars. I've seen the argument that ghost deck is the best because you can give a random Joker 1.5 times molt and you can turn a meh Joker into a decent Joker at least. I've also seen checkered deck because you only start with spades and hearts in your deck. It's pretty easy to play flushes early on, and then you can kind of spec out into a different style of deck later on. But the deck that I definitely had the most luck with overall was the Anaglyph deck, where you get a double tag after each boss, like we discussed before. I think it is super broken, and it definitely led to a lot of great runs for me. The most obvious use, of course, is being able to skip out on some of those blind skip rewards where you can get increased negative Jokers, which just add to your count, and obviously more Jokers is better when you're trying to complete the game with more and more Jokers. And even if you're not getting lucky with the negative Joker skip option, you can also do these skip options to gain more money or increase the power of individual hand types, and overall I think that it is just leagues better than everything else you could be doing. Other than our sticker collection journey, there is one more big glaring thing that we need to take care of in order to call this game 100%ed. And that would be finishing up the 20 different challenge runs that this game has in it currently. Just to recap, the challenge runs vary in difficulty, but the main point of them is to change the rules of the game and force you to make new, different decisions than you would in the base game, and just change your playstyle to be a little bit more interesting. The 20th and final challenge in the list is the No Joker Challenge, Jokerless if you will, and that seems pretty difficult, especially when you're playing a game that is all about collecting Jokers. It honestly seems kind of hardly possible, but eventually we do manage to do it, and it was surprisingly easier than I expected. Don't get me wrong, it definitely took me a couple different tries, but the benefit of not having any jokers showing up in your shop is that you get more planets, more tarots, things to help structure your run a lot more directly, and also we're playing on white stake, so things are quite a bit easier than I have been experiencing previously. Though you might notice that I did not unlock an achievement as I finished up this jokerless run. Don't get me wrong, I am super thrilled to have finished up this challenge, but we aren't quite done yet. There is actually another challenge that is quite a bit more difficult than jokerless, if you can believe that. In my opinion, by far the most challenging Balatro challenge run is number 18, Golden Needle. In this challenge run, you start with 1 hand per round with no way to increase that, 6 discards, but each of those discards will cost you a single dollar every time you make it. You do start with credit card, so that allows you to go up to -20 in money and still be able to make purchases, but it is still a little bit rough. You need to have a deck that is good enough to be able to beat every single boss and encounter in 1 hand. Now you have a couple discards to sculpt that run, but still, this is challenging for sure. To put it in perspective, jokerless took me, I don't know, maybe 3 or 5 attempts to finally be able to get the game done, but Golden Needle is a different beast. I had quite a few runs that were going well that just couldn't get over the hump, quite a few runs that you just run out of money and you can't get it done anymore, and, you know, this one probably took me about 20 different attempts to finally get it to work, which is quite a lot, especially considering how much I have been practicing on gold stake at this point. It's a little embarrassing. The build that ended up getting me over the finish line is a Hearts Flushed based deck. Now our deck wasn't super sculpted because we just didn't really have the money to get it off the ground, but we did manage to get it basically there based off of multing alone, and a helpful pickup of the banner, which gives you 30 chips per remaining discard, and we just so happen to start with a bunch of discards, so things worked out pretty good for us. As we finish up the Golden Needle challenge, we earn the achievement Rule Breaker for finishing all 20 challenge runs, and we are at 30 out of 31 achievements, and we just have our stickers remaining. Back to the grind. Once again, jumping many hours into the far-flung future of me spending hours sitting at my computer grinding this game, we are left with just 2 jokers remaining, those being Mime and Marble Joker. This is actually kind of surprising. Those are both really good jokers, and I managed to get everything else completed first, even the ones that are kinda rough. By the way, if you're looking to do this challenge yourself, I recommend just playing normally for getting all of the decks up to gold stake. You know, if there's a rare joker you happen to be able to grab before the end and your build is good enough to be able to sub a random dead joker in, then that's pretty good. You can just cross one off your list early. But as you get towards the late game, it becomes a lot more important to be flexible and just trying to jam in anything that you can. Once you have 5 or 6 jokers left, keeping a list is super important to know what you have left and what you don't. I also took some time to click through my stats at this point of the game, just basically looking at everything: jokers, consumables, tarot cards, planets, spectrals, vouchers, everything that I have taken up to this point as kind of a guidance for what I generally like to see in shops. Hopefully this is helpful or at least interesting. Another super important lesson for working on collecting all of the jokers on Golden Stake, and also for just life I guess, is to keep a level head while you're doing it. I played tons and tons of runs like this one where I played all the way to the end, I re-rolled all my money at the end, and I just couldn't get one of the 2 remaining jokers to show up and be put in our shop at the right time, and that'll happen. You know, Balatro's a fun game, and you just gotta kinda put that out of your mind, I guess. Obviously, when you get down to just 2 jokers remaining out of a pool of an original 150, things get a little bit weird. It takes a lot of attempts to finally find jokers that you're actually looking for, and, you know, there are a lot of runs that just end up feeling kind of disappointing. It's also a little strange because despite the run diversity in this game, once you get to a high enough level, pretty much the best thing to do is just play high card or pair, so your runs end up being a little bit samey. But it is kind of fun to toy around with some of the other jokers now that you have a lot more freedom than we did when we were strictly hunting, getting as many as possible. Anyway, all of that is to say we finally get a gold stake run with the Marble Joker, and now we only have one remaining, our one true nemesis. Looking for 2 jokers was pretty frustrating as far as not really being able to find what you're looking for, and one is literally twice as bad as far as that goes. I even managed to get a couple runs where we find the mime, but I just wasn't able to pilot the run that we had out of the hole that we were in, whether that be just not getting any other good support jokers to go with it, or just, bad luck. It's a card game after all, sometimes things just don't go quite your way. I actually managed to get one run where I had both the Marble Joker and the mime in one shop, and I purchased both, but that was also kind of another flaw that I had. I was trying to just jam jokers together that I had left that didn't really work together, and so I ended up ruining a run that could have been good for one of them by trying to force both of them. Would have been super sick if it worked though, because what are the odds we get the final 2 that we need in the same run? But again, it's not really worth thinking about because it didn't happen. And in fact, this run that you're looking at didn't happen either. I didn't manage to pilot this mime out, and unfortunately, he was one of our casualties. Eventually though, after enough perseverance, I do manage to get a run in that has a mime in it and is actually, honestly, looking at this, absolutely cracked. I mean, look at this lineup of jokers. It's pretty hard to beat this. We don't have anything that is necessarily utility based, and we really don't have any chips other than what's being provided by our different effects on our jokers, but I mean, look at this layout. Our anti-8 boss is the very large blind, requiring us to score 1.2 million points, and this build absolutely soars directly past that, no problem whatsoever. But then we reach a familiar issue. We finish up the run, we beat it into Anti-9, but the achievement we were looking for Completionist ++ didn't seem to unlock. I once again return back to the menu screen and go ahead and scroll through all of our jokers, and I confirm that we do in fact have gold stake difficulty completed on every single one of these. So once again, in the grind to unlock all of the gold stake stickers in this game, I actually took about a 5-month break, going from May to the end of October. And I'm mentioning that so that maybe you have a little bit of flexibility with me as far as why I was surprised that the achievement didn't unlock. Hint, hint, it's gonna be the same reason that Completionist Plus didn't unlock the first time, and it's gonna be the same solution that I had to go ahead and remember why it didn't unlock originally. But this moment of scrolling through every single one of our jokers and seeing the gold sticker on it is honestly kind of a monumental moment. I had a lot of pride clicking through these, having our memories of all of the runs that we've done. At this point, I mean, I have won so many games of Balatro that it's kind of hard to keep them straight in my mind, but looking through this, we've got a monument to all of those memories that we've had throughout our playtime in this game, and it's honestly super amazing. Balatro is an amazing, truly special game, and I absolutely adored the time that I spent with it, and I can't wait to go back once we get that DLC drop. The grind of finishing everything up might have been a little bit frustrating, but I can't recommend the feeling of having it done enough. Anyway though, that is absolutely enough blabbering for me, and it is finally time for us to wrap up our time with this game. It's just been about 40 minutes for you guys, but this has been hundreds of hours across several months for me, and this feeling of going back to the basic white stake on the checkered deck once again, and being able to close the game out finally with a pretty classic flush deck. It feels pretty amazing as we finish up our final boss blind and earn the achievement Completionist Plus for earning a gold sticker on every single joker, and now we can officially say that we have done everything in Balatro. So how did we do? Balatro took me a total of 212.6 hours according to the Steam clock, which actually seems a little bit low considering all of the time that I feel like I spent spent with this game. Now, part of that will be watching videos of this game and also just the raw amount of time that I've spent thinking about this game. It's just insane what it has done to me. I even got my girlfriend hooked onto this one, and she's played a total of 150 hours, which is a little bit crazy for her and says a lot about how hard this game can hook you. Obviously, I really enjoyed my time with this game, but like I said, I took a big break on the completion between May and October of 2024, and you might be wondering, what is the thing that got you to come back and finally wrap up all of the gold stake jokers? Well, honestly, it's kind of the threat of the incoming DLC in 2025. We know that it's coming, and I have already put in the work to get our challenges and our deck completions and our Joker stakes all the way up to where they were at the time that I stopped originally, and I don't think that it's a super big secret that there's probably going to be more of all of those things being added in the next major DLC update. If not all of them, at least some of them, and it will probably make getting this completion quite a bit harder, assuming that it's not locked and becomes like this is for completing all of the base set jokers. But anyway, even if more jokers get added, your pool is getting more diluted, so things will become at least marginally more difficult. With that being said, if you're somebody that loved this game but was having a little bit of trouble getting back in for the grind, maybe that motivation will help you wrap things up a little bit like it did for me. But even if you haven't started the grind and it's a little intimidating, you will lose the hours in no time. It's worth noting that I definitely played the majority of this on desktop, but you can also play it on Steam Deck. It's on mobile now, though I don't think it's cross-compatible. I'm a little scared of putting it on my phone because I feel like I'll kind of get sucked back in again, and that's a little bit of a fear for me. But I cannot recommend this game enough, and I believe, once again, that this is going up the day before the Game Awards, and I hope that Balatro does very well for itself there. And I hope you do very well for yourself by hitting the subscribe button. Nailed it. And I hope you really enjoyed watching this video. As always, please feel free to leave any comments you have about the game, honestly questions or recommendations, anything you want to ask about. I am super happy to talk about this game. I love Balatro, unless you want to talk about the pronunciation of it. In that case, don't at me. Also, if you want to leave any recommendations for other games you'd like to see me check out, you can leave those down there as well. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. See you!